Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. And don't forget to check out the Swag Cave, brought to you by Resonance Branding Company. That link is in the podcast description. On this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, we're going to talk a little Packers training camp, as we are 1 week away from the recording of this episode, 1 week away from Packers' first practice for training camp. So we got a couple more storylines to discuss. But I want to lead off this episode talking some Milwaukee Brewers, and I need a guest to join me to talk some Milwaukee Brewers. Making his comeback on the program, we've got Mr. Justus Cleveland, Sports Director Extraordinaire, WEAU 13 News, joining us. Justus, how you doing, man?
I've been out wandering the wilderness, but I found my way back. I found my way back.
Hey, how'd you do at Troy Burn yesterday? I saw you posted up on Twitter there that you were over there. Besides the sunburn, how'd you do?
Oh, it's a beautiful course. Beautiful course. The first 9 went fine. The back 9, I just fell apart. It was warm.
Yeah.
I'm battling a cold for like almost 3 weeks, and I think that's my excuse. I just sucked on the back 9. But, man, what a course. It was a lot of fun. And, yeah, if you ever get a chance, anybody out there, go play it. That was my first time. I've been out there for tournaments, obviously, for high school, but to get a chance to go out there and play, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've never played it either. I've been out there and such, and I've watched a couple tournaments, but I've never actually played it, so I have to put it on my list. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think you would love it. It's challenging, but it's still fair. You're not feeling like you're overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just start spraying the ball right and left like I did, but it happens anywhere.
Right. Oh, same here, man. Same here. Well, we appreciate you hopping on here for a little bit, and I know, we were talking a lot about with the Brewers now into the All-Star break here, Justus. You got the Home Run Derby and obviously the game tomorrow in itself, but Brewers 4.5 up in the division over the Cardinals. Are they at a spot where have they exceeded your expectations thus far? Let me just straight up ask you that.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I definitely, especially considering how much problems they've had keeping pitchers healthy, starting pitchers healthy, for them to still be able to come back and do what they've done to win 55 games by the All-Star break. Yeah, to me, it's been a surprise, and I love the way the hitting is turned around this year compared to last year. And you're seeing guys hitting around, over 250, which, I mean, let's be honest, a couple of years there, 250 would have been leading the team almost. So, yeah, I've loved the way this team has played. It just seems like a completely different attitude almost than what we were seeing with Council the last couple of years. Not that they weren't successful, but I think, yeah, I've been impressed by this team and Pat Murphy.
Mm-hmm. Pat Murphy had a comment or a quote, I should say, that we kind of been talking about here a little bit this morning. But he talked about he had a meeting with his leadership council, the pillars of his team that he calls them, and that's like Yelich, that's Rhys Hoskins, that's William Contreras, guys that you would figure would be kind of on that leadership council over here. And a quote that he had, and I'm gonna read it off here again too. He says, "We're trying to play to a standard. I just won't tolerate. We're just going through a rough stretch. Maybe I should, but I like to bring it to the forefront in these type of sessions." It seems like even though this team's got some younger dudes on here, obviously Jackson Chourio, but Frelick got some experience last year. Bryce Terang has taken a step this year. It seems like Pat Murphy has this high standard for this team, this standard of excellence, regardless. Like, he doesn't care about inexperience, even from his standpoint. It seems like he's got a very high standard. Do you think that's a little bit different from the Council era? Because I could see Council saying, "Hey, we're just going through a rough stretch. That's baseball. We'll bounce back." It seems like Pat Murphy's got a little bit of a different philosophy with that.
I really do, and I think he's just all around. It seems like a different philosophy. I think he expects those guys. They've all played baseball. You know what I mean? He knows they're all baseball players. It doesn't matter if they've played at a lower level or anything. He expects them to come out there and work and put them in position to be successful. And I think he really does that. He doesn't. And this team, obviously, with the amount of players that have younger players that are coming up and have come through, it doesn't seem like they really skip a beat when you have these guys entered into the lineup. So yeah, I think that's a lot on. I've just been impressed by the way he handles the team. His attitude it's fun. even when he seems like this kind of, if you were on the outside looking in, he's kind of this gruff guy,
Yep.
but he's really a funny guy.
And
I think the players love him. I think they really love him, and I think this is it really was the perfect move after Council. Nothing against what Council did at that team, but I think it was kind of a change that maybe it was needed, and it really has worked out. And he's maybe the best guy to handle these younger players because he just knows how to do it and do it well and communicate with them well. And we've seen the success on the field.
How much do you think that college background helps him with that?
Well, I think that's huge. I really do. I think that's huge. Just knowing how to you got to have the kid gloves kind of thing. You just can't be too far one way or too far the other way. He's got such an even keel. He really knows how to handle it, and he's real with these guys. And I think that's the key. He's not sugarcoating a lot of stuff, but he's not out there trying to hurt feelings or anything either. He's just got this perfect, I think, just the perfect personality to handle this team.
You see it, sometimes we can tell maybe some coaches or managers are kind of fake, and, sometimes we can kind of sense it from what they say. Players, I would have to imagine, can really tell. It sure seems like there's nothing fake about some of the stuff that Pat Murphy says or does, and maybe that's where, like you said, these players love it, and they appreciate the honesty from him.
Oh, I think that's really what it is. And I think for the guys who were there when he was the bench coach, that's, they knew what he was, and I think they've embraced it even more. So I think that you heard right away when he was named manager, there wasn't anybody saying, oh, this is, not that anybody's going to really go out and say that they don't like the idea, but it just seems like everybody really embraced it. And I think it's a different philosophy. I think you can see it's a different philosophy on offense for sure than what we were seeing with Council. I think Council was maybe going too much by the analytics at times. And we're seeing a guy like Christian Yelich. I think, health obviously has a lot to do with him. But the fact that his approach seems different. He doesn't seem frustrated at the plate. He seems like he's fine going to all different fields. And I think maybe that's the thing. Maybe they, I don't know. We won't find out until years down the road what exactly was probably being told to these guys for the last few years when they were struggling at the plate. But yeah, to watch that team go up there and the situational hitting seems so much better than we've seen.
Yeah. I mean, they're 2 outs. They're 2 out, runs. How many runs have they scored with 2 outs? They're one of the best in the entire league with that. And, you kind of touched on it there a little bit. I mean, I think it's something that, is probably going to be a discussion after the season's over with. But it's hard not to notice, Justice, that you see the offense of this team and what a lot of these guys are doing offensively. Yet the only difference is the manager. They've got the same hitting coaches. They've got Chris Hook, the pitching coach, still there. Ricky Weeks obviously is an addition over here too. But you look at a lot of those position coaches or those different coaches, they're the same guys. So what's the difference? It's probably a conversation at the end of the year to see how it all figures out. But it's hard not to notice that, right? It's hard not to notice that everything else is the same besides the manager and the bench coach, and that bench coach is actually the new manager this year. Yeah,
I mean that's the first thing I that stuck out with me when the regular season started. I was like, there's so much of the same, but it just seems like a different team. It really does. I mean, and a lot of these guys, even Willie Adames, his average isn't great, but it just seems like there's just a different enthusiasm with a lot of these guys when they're getting up there too. So yeah, it's been a fun first half of the season, and obviously the little slide here at the end of the first half, which has become a Brewers tradition,
right?
So it doesn't surprise anybody, but still, you get the win yesterday, and you go in with some momentum. I mean, I know baseball guys especially probably don't believe in momentum all that much, but I think it was big to get that win and then come back. But you touched on it. This is a team that doesn't seem to really get too high or too low when it comes to stuff like this. So I think that's their manager right there, rubbing off on them. And I think they'll be fine for the second half. And obviously, you had a rough week, but still, the Cardinals didn't do anything, and you still sit up there with a 4.5 game lead going into the All-Star break. So things are looking good in Milwaukee.
Biggest question, or maybe the biggest concern you would have or do have heading into this quote-unquote second half post All-Star break?
I'm a little concerned with William Contreras. Just if he can get his bat back to where he was at the beginning of the season. I mean, I pulled up his splits, and he was hitting 345 in April, then it was 301 in May, now it's 248 in June, and a little bit better now in July, or 218, excuse me, in June. Yeah, so he's been 345, 301, 218. You don't like seeing those numbers keep trending down. I just hope he can get a little bit of rest, even though he is playing in the All-Star game, and come back a little bit refreshed and get that. The contact hasn't been what it was early in the season, and maybe that's just pitchers adjusting to him. But obviously, that's just one worry. But the pitching, I mean, you can't have too much depth, especially starting pitching with this team. So I expect them to still. I don't think they're done by any means.
No,
out there trying to reshore that up. So other than that, I mean, again, this is a team that finds a way to scrap together runs, which wasn't very Brewer like the last couple of years. So, and with the Cardinals looming though. That's always what I worry about. Yeah,
they're playing like that typical Cardinals team again. Wasn't it last year they were like 18.5 back, and I think you and I were like, I'm still not ready to count them out, sort of thing.
Exactly. I joked with somebody last week. I'm like, they're like cockroaches. When you think the Cardinals are done, the next thing you know, there's a whole bunch of them somewhere. So, yeah, and they're playing well without their best players really playing that great. So, I think it's going to be a battle. And I think, pitching wise, if they can, you get Devin Williams back, had a rehab start, I believe it was yesterday or Saturday. So, yeah, you have him looming to get back there. That's more depth to a bullpen that I think has been kind of pitching out of its mind at times this year. They've had their struggles lately, but still, they've been called upon a lot and a lot of innings because they just haven't had the starters, or you don't have the guys that can go. Like a Dallas Keuchel goes, 3 innings yesterday?
Yeah. Or Saturday or whatever. Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry. Yeah. And so you lose a guy who, you're asking this bullpen to be out there a lot. The nice thing is they have some versatility with some of those guys in that bullpen to be able to pitch longer and stuff like that. But, yeah, I mean, the pitching staff to me is the biggest concern going into the second half.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would throw in, maybe it's just because we had too high expectations, but like Freddie Peralta, I'd like to see him kind of improve and maybe become a little bit more consistent. If he is the ace of the staff, I'd like to see him kind of maybe take that next step coming up in the second half too.
Yeah, the early game struggles that we've kind of been almost like a trademark for him, where he just kind of gives up a couple runs early in the game and then maybe settles in a little bit. But yeah, for a guy who's your ace, 6-5 with a 4.11 ERA right now isn't what you want to see from the guy, because you're getting great, like Colin Ray being 9-3. You would have told me Colin Ray was going to be 9-3 at the All-Star break. I would not have thought that. And he looks like your ace.
Yeah, he does.
And then you throw in Tobias Myers, who, I mean, again, you talk about a guy that we really didn't know anything about too much coming into the season, and now this guy's 6-3 with a 3.13 ERA. So, and then I'm still on the Brian Hudson Cy Young bandwagon. But
well, you and my guy Hudson would be on that same one there too. Obviously, he loves Hudson because of the name. So,
a couple of struggles. His ERA is ballooned to 1.49, but still, yeah. I mean, again, a lot of these guys these are guys that you really didn't have what your expectations were going into it, but to have these guys pitching like this, even Bryce Wilson, who's had to bounce back and forth from the bullpen to starting. So yeah, it's been definitely just kind of a makeshift year with that pitching staff. But for what they've been able to do with it, if they can maintain that and get a Devin Williams back in that mix, it should be really interesting to see what they can do in the second half.
And even when you get Devin Williams back into that mix, and once he gets settled in and he kind of gets back to that closing role, it's a trickle down effect, isn't it? For the rest of the bullpen, you can have your closer. Maybe McGill goes to that setup role, and then you got 6th and 7th and options. And the unique thing, it seems like with their bullpen, like a Hudson or a Wilson or even a Koenig, they can go multiple innings, Justice, where it's not just one inning and they're out. They got guys that can give you a couple innings, it seems like.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention, Jared Koenig's 7-1.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, these guys they've been able to win, and when you have guys that can go those multiple innings, it's huge. So, yeah, I'm going to put this out there, Dan. Let's say they get Devin Williams back, and we're getting towards the deadline, and a team wants Trevor McGill as a closer. Is that a move you'd be willing to make?
Do you get an impact player, like a player that can play for you right now?
Yep, or a pitcher, a starting pitcher.
I think you do.
Yeah, I mean, he's proven he can do it, and he had the blip. He's had a couple of blips, but not much.
Right.
He is pretty much lights out there. So that's a good. I mean, that's a nice little chess piece to have. Again, if you are the Brewers, I mean, he's 30 years old, so he's not. Baseball terms, that's old, but that's not that old. So you're right, the wheelhouse right there. So, and Pyam's pitched better. So yeah, it's just been. But it's funny because you just look at the number of guys on the IL, pitching wise, and just think of how much even better the staff could be if they just hadn't been snake bitten.
You just kind of wonder, if Wade Miley didn't get hurt and Robert Gasser didn't get hurt, what would this staff look like? And maybe we're not having that discussion about they need another starter at the bullpen.
Right, and even like a DL Hall, who you expected to come in and pitch major innings and hasn't been able to do that. It's just been one of those things where, man, they've done really well with what they've had.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's going to be a fun, I think, next couple weeks here to follow that trade deadline to see if the Brewers do make any moves or anything like that. It's completely different from the last couple of years, though. It's like, we're looking for bats in that, and offense, I mean, is there really a real big weak point? Maybe it's depth at that. I don't know. I mean, center field, maybe if you want more power there, but I mean, the way Blake Perkins is playing and such, I don't want him to, kind of ride the pine in that. So I mean, there's not you're almost nitpicking when you're talking about, maybe some adding more bats or maybe more offensive players.
Right. You're just kind of looking for maybe a veteran player that can maybe come in and like an Andrew Monasterio, who's that if you can get somebody who's a little more seasoned and
like Jerry Hairston Jr. in 2011 sort of thing.
Yeah, like something like that. Like if you can get somebody like that, I think you probably have to pull the trigger on that. But I mean, I've been impressed. Even like Gary Sanchez, obviously he's injured, but he came in and has been better than what I thought he was going to be. You knew he was going to hit home runs, but I mean, he's for a backup catcher has provided some pop and it has put in some good hits when they've needed it. So
yeah,
and I know William Contreras doesn't want to be out of the lineup, but it's nice to have that with a veteran guy back there.
Absolutely. So, all right, just a couple of things I wanted to make sure I mention with you before we let you go here in a few minutes. But Express-wise, over the weekend, I mean, they're on a road trip right now. They put up 18 runs on doubleheader yesterday, 18 runs in that first game against Waterloo. Picked up a win 18-3, then fell 4-12. They're going up against Waterloo on the road yet today. Then they'll return home for a couple games on Tuesday and Wednesday. A lot of games against Waterloo because that's who they're going to be playing against on Tuesday and Wednesday at Carson Park. But that's kind of been the theme right now with the Express, Justice. Hasn't it been a lot of offense? It's just, pitching has kind of been an issue so far.
Yeah. I mean, you can go to an Express game and the score it could be, 9-3 in the third inning, but don't leave.
Yeah.
Because you don't know which way, either way. If they were trailing 9-3, they can come back, which they did earlier this week, or unfortunately they can give up the runs too. So yeah, it really has. It's been a team that just can put up runs, and I've been impressed to see, Briggs Richards.
Yeah.
My goodness, what a year so far. 7 home runs, 318. And then you just go down the lineup with guys who have been in there, and like an Owen Washburn as well. I mean, you've had some really good guys, and Brady Reynolds, who, hasn't been there for 18 games, but it's hitting 379. So they can hit.
Yeah.
They can hit the ball well. It's just a matter of can they find enough pitching to complement that hitting, and it's been really hard this year. So,
and I think that's
go ahead. In the second half here,
and I think that's kind of maybe something. Probably it's got to be a struggle, and it's got to be tough because these pitchers, they're on those pitch limits, and then you got to factor in, the colleges may have some say in that too. It's got to be tough for the likes of Dale and Vic to try to manage that when it comes to their pitchers.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. It's trying to navigate all the stuff that's probably being thrown at you. Just said, touching on to that with maybe you have a college that doesn't want a guy going, much more than something. Again, the pitch restrictions and no guys coming and going too. So yeah, it's not an easy job for those guys to try to and then you just got to find them.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be able to find them and hope you have enough to maintain. So, yeah, I mean, it's been there in spurts, and I still think this team, if they can just kind of get into a nice rhythm, still has a chance to make a run here in the second half. Mm-hmm. So with that offense, you definitely do. It's just finding enough pitching. So, and, it's nice that you've got like the hometown guy like a Cole Selvig, who you can have throw out there, and guy who's going to Minnesota now.
Yep.
Going to be a little closer. We were talking. I was like, I wonder if him and Xander Rocco are gonna meet up and get an apartment or something like that. But, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If anybody didn't hear, he entered the transfer portal. I'm assuming, Texas, they switched out managers and such, and I know that kind of, that you see that a lot with the new coach and all that. But yeah, definitely closer to home for his family to go check out games too. So,
which is awesome. Yeah, mm-hmm. I mean, and for him to be a little more comfort. You're on those holidays, you're able to just drive back from the city. So that's a good get for the Gophers, and I think a really good move for Cole Selvig. So I look forward to seeing him have some success there.
Absolutely. Sticking with baseball, too, I know it was over the weekend and it wrapped up, but you had the 28th River City Classic for Legion Baseball. I saw Eau Claire Legion Baseball was the 19U team finished 3-1 and such, but that's always a fun event if anybody hasn't gone down there to Carson Park to check it out. But 28th River City Classic already in the book. Summer's flying on by, Justus. Holy
and that Legion team, that 19U team, and their 17U team are both very, very talented. I look forward to, this will be the last week of regular season games for the 19U. The 17U actually starts regionals this week, but there is so much talent on that 19U team. If you just, from around, this is a great swath of area to grab, because you've got kids from, like Altoona, you've got kids from Oliva, Elk Mound, and Eau Claire, all on that team. Mm-hmm. And I think I almost feel like they're just warming up, because next week when they start regionals, it'll be fun to see if they can make a run, because you have guys who have had a lot of success playing baseball on that team.
Yeah, no doubt. So also shout out to everybody who participated at the U.S. National Cube Championship. I know we had Nathan and Zach Oman with their father John Oman and Uncle Mark Oman, family affair, winning championship. And then last year's reigning national championships, Eau Claire natives Kaboom Jr. took third place this year. So that's always a fun one.
Congrats to them. That is such a great sport, and it's really a family sport. If you really it's one of those that kind of just gets passed down, and you see the outstanding. We go out to the soccer park there for my kids, and you'll just see the guys out there throwing and tossing. Probably more of a technical term than I know, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes with that. But yeah, it's amazing, and it's fun. It really is, and it's one of those. I hope you once you play it, it's like, oh, this is something you could see yourself doing the rest of your life. So that's fun, and I'm glad that Eau Claire's really on the map as like the main place for Coob.
Absolutely. So good stuff there. All right, before I let you go, Justus, can you believe we're 1 week away from Packers opening up training camp?
God, man, we're over.
1 week away, dude. 1 week. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's early this year for some reason.
It really does. I mean, I think anybody will tell you, it's like you get older and the summers just get shorter.
Yeah.
They really do. They just fly. And when you throw kids into the mix, you're just, that's me. And I know you know it too. It's like I've been the dad taxi.
Yeah.
The whole summer. And that's, when I got to get the kids up after I do this, get them ready for summer school, and it all starts again. So, yeah, that's to any of our younger listeners out there. Take advantage of the summer as much as you can.
Right.
Get older, it's just like, in a blink it's over, and next thing you know, it's winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were out and about yesterday, and the kid already picked up his school backpack for this year. I mean, for crying out loud, they got the stuff out already. So I'm sitting here doing this in my son's room, and I have his 6th grade list for all the stuff he needs to pick up. So it's right in front of me. So yeah, it's coming quick. I mean, football practice, so we're basically 2.5 weeks. Yeah. Yep.
Before football starts. Man. Everything needs to slow down just a little bit.
I agree. Well, hey, dude, we appreciate you hopping on with us this morning, dude. Have a good rest of your week, and let's catch up soon, okay, bud?
All right, I'm going to go Victor Hovland in the.
That's right. I forgot. See, got the Open coming up. Thank you for reminding me. I didn't even get to that. Okay, you're going Victor with the win?
Yeah.
All right.
I think I picked him for the U.S. Open too, and that didn't work out. But yeah, we'll give it a try.
You know what? He's due. I'm going to go Rory. Just come on, Rory.
Cool.
Got to do it.
Yep.
Got to.
Oh man, it's fun. That's the one that's you can just turn it on in the morning and you're actually watching.
I love that.
Big round, so it's always fun.
Oh yeah. All right, dude. We'll catch up soon. Okay, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Let's take a quick break, and coming up next, we're going to talk some Packers training camp after these quick words. Summer is in full swing. Are you stocked up and prepared? With the kids staying home this summer, family vacations planned, and ball games to go to, your pantries and cupboards are probably looking a bit bare these days. Save money and stock up this summer by doing your shopping at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Not only will you be able to get the best deals on the best items in the area, you can do some extra savings with Hy-Vee's fuel perks. Save money on groceries and gas. That's a win-win situation. So what are you waiting for? Get the shopping at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire today. We're getting set for another busy travel season, vacations, taking our kids to all their games and activities, and you need a proper vehicle to get you to where you're going and safely. That's where Toyson Ford can help you. Toyson Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used car shopping. They will gladly work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. They're committed to giving drivers across the Chippewa Valley the best in customer service. Check them out for yourself. Visit Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls today and check out their website, toysonford.net. Packers training camp opening up a week from today. Rookies have to report and injured players have to report in a couple days here, but first practice is going to be a week from today and such. So we've been kind of doing a countdown to the top storylines for the Packers as they head into training camp and get into preparing for the upcoming season and such. So we've highlighted different players, coaches, position groups, and such. So let's continue kind of our countdown here of different. If you want to check out some of the position groups or players or storylines that we've already covered, they're available on episodes of the Man Cave podcast over there. Brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. But I want to hit up. I think last week we talked about offensive line being one of, and I think is going to be the position group to watch in training camp and in preseason because, Elton Jenkins is going to be your guard. Zach Tom is going to be somewhere. It seems like he's going to stay at right tackle. Still some speculation out there. Could he be, the team's at center going forward? I kind of have some doubts on that now, but we'll see. But other than that, is Jordan Morgan going to crack the starting lineup? This could potentially be Josh Myers' final year as center. Is Walker ready to be that, staple at the blind spot, that left tackle spot over there? I mean, there's questions galore surrounding the offensive line, and to me, it's the position group to watch. The next closest one, though, has got to be the kickers. It's got to be the kickers here. After Anders Carlson last year as a rookie, I mean, he showed his leg strength, but the consistency and had a very up and down season. Missed some kicks, missed some crucial kicks over there, no doubt about it. And he was definitely a player that had a lot of frustration from Packers fans, right? I think that's fair to say. That's fair to say. So with that, the Packers this offseason brought in a veteran, Greg Joseph, and they also have another kicker on their roster, James Turner. Now, James Turner he was with Michigan, with the national champion Michigan, spent a little time with the Detroit Lions. He was signed as an undrafted free agent, was waived in June. Packers claimed him off waivers. So they've got three kickers in here. I think James Turner's probably, it's going to be tough to have him crack it, but you never know. Right now, at least, it looks like the Packers are going to open up camp with three kickers, and this is completely different than what was the plan last year with a rookie kicker in Anders Carlson. They didn't bring in any competition for Anders Carlson last year, none, which was something that I was, and I know quite a few of you were, questioned, would have liked to have seen some competition, would have liked to have seen maybe a veteran kind of in camp and maybe help mold Anders or, provide a little bit of competition, but also, just Pat O'Donnell last year was with camp and they had Daniel Whalen as a punter. So, I mean, you kind of had that dynamic and they didn't do that. They elected not to do that with Anders. Now, would that have made a difference with his rookie year if they would have had a veteran in camp? Who knows? Hindsight's 20/20. We'll never know that answer. But the Packers obviously recognizing, okay, we need a better performance from the kicking position than what they got last year with Anders Carlson. And I think it's fair to expect some growing pains with a rookie kicker. I think that's fair. But now with a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations, Super Bowl goals, they want more production. They want better production from the kicking spot. Anders' numbers last year. Field goal percentage, 81.8%. That was 29th in the league. Extra point percentage, 87.2. That was 33rd in the league. Now, his longest was 53, which is actually tied for 29th. I'll have to look up the numbers over there. But 115 total points, tied for 20th in the league. So those are just some of your numbers from Anders. So they bring in Greg Joseph. Greg Joseph, former Vikings kicker back in the day. And he's a kicker, too, that has kind of gone through his ups and downs in the early part of his career. I started off in Cleveland, played in 14 games for Cleveland back in 2018. Then he was with Tennessee for a hot minute, in 2019 for a couple games. 2021, he's been Minnesota's kicker for the last 3 years. And when you look at his numbers, if you look at his numbers from last year, let me bring those up here a little bit more, some accurate numbers here for Greg Joseph. So Greg Joseph last year, he was 33rd in field goal percentage. Okay? Anders, slightly better. Extra point percentage, Greg Joseph was 94.7%. Anders, again, 87.2. Greg Joseph had a little bit of a longer field goal than Anders, 54 compared to 53. So, they bring in a veteran who's got some experience. Numbers-wise from last year, if we compare them, is it a guy that is going to come in with a big improvement? Numbers suggest otherwise. They suggest otherwise. But this is going to be a position to clearly watch. The reporters who are going to be at practice every single day. They're going to be keeping track of made field goals, made kicks, all that stuff. They're going to be keeping track of that, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. Even when it gets to preseason games, I'll be honest with you, if we get a field goal fest in some of those games, I'm okay with that because the more work, the better with these kickers. I want to see as much work as possible to just maybe get an idea of who is going to be the kicker this year. Sorry, James Turner, unless he kind of surprises a lot of people, I think he's going to be the odd man out. Who knows, though? Could be completely wrong. But I still think it's going to be an Anders Carlson versus Greg Joseph battle here. Part of me still feels like Anders is going to be the guy that is going to win the job. I don't know if Goody is going to abandon a draft pick entering his second year. Now, I will say this. Goody is different from Ted, where Ted Thompson was very, he gave a lot of leeway to his draft picks. He wasn't a guy that was going to move on from a draft pick very early. He maybe sometimes kept a guy a little bit too longer. Goody has shown a little bit of a difference to that. He's let go of some guys after a year, maybe a couple years. I don't know if that's going to be if he's going to let go of a draft pick, a kicker after 1 year. And he could. He absolutely could. I mean, he kind of did it with J.K. Scott, right? He did it with his punter. And I think with the added pressure of the Packers being a Super Bowl Super Bowl caliber team this year, you can't let your season be defined by a struggling kicker, by a kicker where maybe you don't have a whole lot of confidence in. I kind of want, maybe there's a possibility that their kicker may not be on this roster this year. This is going to be a position battle to watch throughout the entire training camp, and I feel like Anders is going to be the guy that gets the job, but I'm like a 51% on there, like 51%. It's close to 50-50 right now. It's going to be a big-time battle between these two, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be complete. Whoever it is, I'm still not going to be 100% confident in them once the season starts. It's just I'm not, and I hate to have that mindset. I really do. I hope Anders is better. The best outcome here is that you hope Anders is better in year 2. That after his rookie year, after adjusting to the NFL game and getting that experience, you hope for a year 2 jump. I mean, I'm rooting for him to be a very good kicker. I want him to be a very good kicker. If he's a good kicker, it means he's helping out the ball club. The question will just be, is he going to be that kicker for this season for Green Bay? I think the biggest, one of the biggest things here is when you look at Greg Joseph and Anders. So Anders attempted 39 extra points last year. He made 34. Greg Joseph attempted 38. He made 36 of those. Anders and Greg Joseph missed the same amount of field goals. Anders attempted 33 and made 27. Greg Joseph attempted 30 and he made 24 of those. Let me see some from the distance here. So last year from 50 plus, Greg Joseph was 3 of 7. We've got, was it 3 of 7? No, excuse me, 4 of 7. So Greg Joseph was 4 of 7 from 50 plus. Anders was 3 of 5. Greg Joseph from 40 to 49. I don't know why, but it's like that 40 to 49 range always makes me the most nervous. Greg Joseph was 3 of 6. Anders was 4 of 8, so you're talking 50% for both there. 30 to 39. Greg Joseph was perfect, 9 for 9. And Anders was perfect, 14 of 14. Both were perfect from 20 to 19, too. So, I mean, when you really look at it, I got a lot of similar numbers to last year. And I think here's the other part, though, too, we got to factor in when it comes to the kickers. The new kickoff rules. The new kickoff rules that are designed to have an increase in kick returns. I mean, you got to be accurate. No longer do you necessarily want that kicker that's going to kick it out of the back of the end zone. Unless you're satisfied with, starting at 30, 35, whatever. So if you got a team that wants a kicker, like, okay, you got to get it, like, kick it and get it within the 5. Land it within the 5, that sort of stuff. I mean, you got to factor that in with your kickers now is the new kickoff rules. You need a little bit of accuracy with that. No longer can the guy just go up there and just punch it in the back of the end zone. Unless you still want that mindset and you just don't want the guy returning the ball. So you got to factor that into this thing here too. Who's going to be better at that? Is it going to be a veteran like Greg Joseph, or is it going to be a second-year guy in Anders Carlson? Rich Bisaccia, I think he's going to have a busy training camp. And if anybody has ever been to a training camp practice and watched Rich Bisaccia work, guy's very animated, he's got a lot of energy. He's going to need it all for this training camp. He's going to need it all. He's going to be a busy man. Not only trying to implement the new return rules and new kickoff and all that, but now he's got a kicking battle. I feel like it's got to be a little all hands on deck when it comes to your special teams unit. But I want to do another storyline heading into Packers training camp a week from today. Since we did kicking and talked a little bit about special teams, one of my storylines that I got is going to be Keyshawn Nixon. Now, Keyshawn Nixon, for a couple different reasons, I've got him on here. One is pretty darn obvious. It's the return game. With the different rules now in the return game for special teams, for kickoffs, you would think this benefits a guy like Keyshawn Nixon, 2 years in a row, All-Pro at that position. Which it was kind of interesting when the voting, when the owners and teams voted on it. Green Bay was actually one of the teams that voted against it. And it sounds like they wanted, when you listened to Rich Bisaccia shortly after, and he was asked about it at a media availability, and he kind of said, maybe they preferred to just do a trial run like in preseason and such. So it didn't seem like they were just like totally against it. They maybe wanted to kind of get their feet wet before fully jumping in. But it sure seems like with the new kickoff rules, Keyshawn Nixon is going to be a guy that is really going to benefit from it. That he's really going to benefit from this. And it's hard not to see why he wouldn't. So could we see a better version of Keyshawn Nixon now with this new rule? Packers are counting on it. They're surely counting on it, and I think that's a big reason why he got a 3-year contract. 3 years, $18 million, remember, from the Packers this past offseason. $6.5 million signing bonus, $6.5 guaranteed. Average annual salary, of course, $6 million. So he's going to be a big part, obviously, on special teams. He could flip the field. He could be a game changer with the new rules here. But one of the storylines that I'm going to be curious about is his role as the slot corner. Because there was a question mark with Jeff Hafley coming in as your new defensive coordinator. There was a question mark whether he was going to be that slot guy. Was he going to fit within this style? Or was Green Bay going to maybe look at bringing in another corner to kind of replace him? And from all accounts, remember, go back a few months ago, and Jeff Hafley talked about it, and I think it was pretty evident in what the Packers did in the offseason, what they did in the draft, or what they didn't do. They didn't draft a corner high. They didn't address corner really in free agency. They feel like Keyshawn Nixon can fit as a slot corner within Jeff Hafley's defense. And that to me is going to be something to kind of watch. Not only in training camp, but when you get into the games, into the regular season here too. We saw him play that slot role. He got the opportunity last year. Made some plays. Maybe it was a little inconsistent in other ways there too. But with a position group that I think a lot of people thought the Packers would address early in the draft or maybe pick up a free agent, and they didn't. So they're putting a lot of their eggs into Jair Alexander, but also Eric Stokes being healthy this year. We already talked about that. And also Carrington Valentine, 7th-round rookie last year that got a ton of playing time. They're really high on. They're putting and then Keyshawn Nixon. They're putting a lot of eggs in the basket of those 4 individuals right now. That they can be a group that can play within this new style of defense that we keep hearing about is going to be very aggressive when it comes to the corners. Playing press man. And really, too, when it comes to those slot guys, remember, a lot of times they may be speedy guys, maybe a little bit smaller. Can Keyshawn hold up against that? Can he go up against that? I think Keyshawn can be a little physical at the line of scrimmage, and maybe that's where he's going to be a real asset to that. Little bump right at the line. Be a little physical. Because I think one thing that I saw last year, in my opinion, when it came to Keyshawn Nixon, I thought he was pretty physical as a slot guy. I know there was some talk, could he actually be a safety? Could he transition into a safety role? And maybe eventually he could. But it sure seems like, from everything that we're being told, that he's going to be the slot corner. So I'm going to be curious to see that. It's going to be an interesting season for Keyshawn Nixon, because when he got that contract, I think a lot of people were like, ooh, that was a little bit more than what they thought. Because after his first year of being an All-Pro, he got a 1-year deal for $4 million. Yeah, it was a 1-year deal for $4 million from the Packers. Originally he signed a 1-year, $965,000 contract with Green Bay. Goes in, gets to be the returner after the Amari Rodgers experiment failed. Ends up returning some kicks for touchdowns and gets All-Pro, gets a raise, a 1-year, $4 million deal. And he followed that up with a bigger raise, 3 years, $18 million. $18 million. So there's going to be a little bit of a higher expectation. Like, all right, can he play up to that contract? But he's got to prove it from both, not only just the defensive side, but that return ability. I think he's got a chance to really affect games in that return with the NFL really now pushing to increase returns in there. Keyshawn's going to be a threat at that. Opposing teams know it. Opposing special teams units, they know it. They're going to be prepared for it. How they game plan for that is going to be kind of interesting to watch in these games. But he's going to be a threat there. But I think the thing that I really want to watch and the thing that I think we need to pay attention to when it comes to a guy like Keyshawn Nixon is his effect, how he affects games, right? His effect on the defensive side. Can he hold down that slot position? Can he be an effective corner? Or what's his role going to be like over there? I could see him being a guy that blitzes off the edge, blitzes from the corner spot, from that slot spot. But he's got to be able to be reliable in coverage too, especially if he's going to be going up against maybe quicker, smaller type of receivers. So, and now within this new style of defense that wants an aggressive pass coverage, can Keyshawn Nixon be that guy from that slot role? Something to watch, something to pay attention to. And that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toys and Ford. And again, don't forget to check out the Swag Cave, brought to you by Resonance Branding Company. That link is in the podcast description. Hey, if you got a minute or two, if you could, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast, those ratings, reviews, wherever you listen to your podcast. So like if you're on Apple, you want to leave the rating and review on Apple, Spotify, same thing. So more positive ones out there, the more people find the Man Cave Podcast. That's the gist of it. So, but a big thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the podcast too, because sometimes we drop multiple episodes in a day. You follow and subscribe for free, you will never miss another episode. Until next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.